Today is going to be episode 55 of Who Thought We'd Be Here. That's 45 more episodes till 100, so that's something.
We're halfway there, yeah.
You know?
Which is kind of wild.
It's also the first time that me and you have just recorded solo in like over a month, I feel like.
Probably something like that. That was definitely...
It was
Did you do that before New Year's?
Yeah, it was in December because...
So it has to be, yeah.
Because then, like 2 days later, we recorded the New Year's episode. Okay, so we did record one more time. I just forget because that episode's already out.
Oh, yeah. We did do that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was the last episode we did together. We've had guests.
But did we just put it out like that day? Or almost the next day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that?
We had Brandon Purdy on the other day. Musician, producer.
Yeah.
You guys got something in the works.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah, that's going to be really exciting. Yeah, it's what's funny is that, and I need to text him about it. There's like a Post-it note in my room that just says keep going on. And it's been there for...
We posted it on the Instagram.
6 months, 8 months. Yeah, probably whenever you posted that as one. And it's been there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like that was destiny, you know? Because that's the name of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You get to help come up with a narrative together, like a story. For the
after the episode, we had such a good conversation. He had so many ideas, and I love it when, people think big.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times, you know, even with this podcast, we were in the beginning, the ideas were very small, and then they kind of started to get bigger. But he was entirely thinking no, I want to do this and have this and you know, and it's kind of who cares if you throw an idea out there that maybe isn't possible, but maybe it is, you know.
Yeah.
If money, you know, in a way, stuff like that. You try to think that if money was no option, what would we do?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's meet somewhere in the middle of what's possible. And obviously we can't have you on a blimp, but
I mean, you never know.
Exactly.
Crowdfunding, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Yeah. But I thought that I just noticed that today, and I gotta send him a picture of that because it's It feels like that's what was always in the cards, you know.
We also had an episode that we filmed with Nina Lugo. She's a
I know it's LMS.
Licensed mastered social worker.
Yes.
That was a very interesting conversation. We got to talk about trauma and stuff.
Yeah, she works with mental health with kids, which is right up our alley.
Yeah. Since we were both.
Since we're trying to conquer that. Since we're both trying to conquer that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was definitely an interesting conversation. So keep a lookout for that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also shout out to Raven. Go back and listen to that episode when you see this one. That's a really good one, really long one. We learned about the limits of our cameras and microphones in that one.
Yeah,
that was fun.
We weren't prepared for that, but you live and you learn, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But I think what's great about all those guest episodes is you look back and I have the privilege. I mean, you go back and listen to them too because you're cutting up the clips. But as I'm going through them, you can see in the moment awesome conversations happening.
Mm-hmm.
And we plan to a certain extent, but it's really cool to see when something I can almost kind of see sometimes if I'm if our guest says something, sometimes I can see it in my own eyes or in yours that oh, that struck a chord. Mm-hmm. And they're about to ask a good question, or maybe you thought you had a good question planned out, but what they said kind of transformed it, because I think that's what the best conversations come from, is really being present. And I think we've really tuned into that, especially with Nina and Purdy's episode.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've gotten really good at, especially going back to just the episode around where Will came out, where Will's was.
Yeah.
And that, I think in that time frame, we just really elevated the conversations. It's been more focused on whatever we're going through or talking about in that moment. We really stay on that topic and hammer it home. And I think that's important because you don't want to just be jumping all over the place all the time. So it's nice when we have those episodes where it's dialed in.
Yeah, well, it's it's kind of if you go into it, and obviously we go into it with, obviously if we have a social worker on who works with kids, we're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm. But we don't want to like grip so tightly to the idea that this is what we have to talk about, because you might wake up that day and something else might be on your mind, and that's gonna apply to the conversation.
Mm-hmm. I think that was evident in those last couple episodes before the conversation locked in, where we had those ones where we're just like fumbling around and nothing's coming because we were so focused on like we got to make this perfect. And
now
you're in that thought process though. You're not even thinking about being present in the moment because you're just overthinking the actual moment. You know?
Yeah, but and also like I've had this thought multiple times, especially with guests, where it's that like it's not going to help you to think about the other thing you have to edit or where you fucked up the last time. It's not going to help to talk or to think about that in the moment of doing that. The only thing that's going to help this episode be better is being present and showing up and trying to just deliver the best conversation that we can. And it feels like we're getting better at that. You know, we talked about that, getting better at interviewing, and I think that there's a lot more to go, but I think we've gotten a lot better at that and tuning into like the energy of the guest and what like kind of what we can draw out of them. And I think it's been cool too, because all of our guests lately have been asking us questions too.
Yeah, that's been very interesting because it really expands the conversation, because you go into it thinking like it's going to be mainly this one person talking with us asking questions here and there, and then the conversation really explodes because there's more, everybody has input on something. You want to see something from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like what can we get out of this person, it's what can we give you too.
Yeah.
And I think also like with guests it was something that you go into it, maybe it's from like you hear other people's podcasts that it's very focused on the guest, and that's like totally the way that things work. But like I also think that that helps build up our confidence, because it's like we bring something to the table too. And like I didn't expect that during Purdy's episode we'd be talking about mushrooms, but he asked us about it, and that's the way it went.
Yeah, I feel like I've been really trying to hone in on that skill, especially with the 5-minute videos every day.
Yeah, how do you feel? Like, how have you been feeling about that? This is your first is this the first episode?
This is the first episode since, I mean...
Well, no, we did Purdy's episode, but like this is the first episode that just you and I have done.
Yeah, where we're like, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's interesting. I think, like I said today, I talked to you about expanding it and like kind of changing the way I'm going about it. It's a learning process every day. Every day I'm learning something new about it. I'm also just trying to be very open about what's on my mind and what I'm thinking about, and then at the same time being able to bring that energy after I'm done with it for the rest of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you find that the resistance feels different when you do it by yourself versus when you do it with me or with guests?
I feel like it's much more centered on my thinking of what everybody else is going to think. I don't think that what me and you record. I also haven't really been thinking about that though. I think in
the beginning maybe, but
maybe in the first like 4 videos a little bit I was thinking about it, but like I think after I started talking about like what I'm trying to find with God, and I opened up and just started talking about what I wanted to talk about, I stopped caring what anybody else thinks, because it's only one person's opinion that matters, you know? So
yeah,
I've just been going with it and saying what's on my mind, and I'm getting people responding to it, so that's nice, you know?
Yeah, I usually listen to it, usually around the time you post it is either if I'm on my way to the gym or if I'm on my way home.
Okay.
That's when I find I listen to it.
Yeah.
So I don't really watch them, but like...
What do you think?
I think they're great, but like I also know that like I can kind of like feel you tapping into like your authentic self when you do that, because I think we worked really hard to get to that point with this podcast, and then maybe it feels a little bit like you're starting over when you do it by yourself, you know. And I applaud you. I'm proud of you for doing that on your own.
Thank you.
I think it's a lot, because like I said, I think the first thing that would come to mind is that like for a while I struggled with what are people going to think of what me and you are doing, and after a while that just went away, but I think that would come back if it was just me, like in my room or like talking about stuff. But maybe that's a sign that like, I mean, we talked about doing it, so maybe it's just like that becomes a thing where I do some stuff on my own too for the groups. Like, who knows?
Yeah, because it could just turn into, it's a 5-minute segment. I think the real point that I wanted to hammer home to myself was this is another thing where I've built routines and I've built habits and I've seen them positively impact my life over the long run. So
that was your thing for today, right?
Yeah, I've also noticed that, like, it's just 5 minutes, which is something we talk about all the time, is like starting a new hobby or a new habit or whatever, a routine, whatever you want to call it, it can be daunting if you're thinking way too far down the road, or if you're only thinking of the end goal. And I think with this, for me, it's like, it's just 5 minutes out of the day, just take the time, get it done. Like, it's not like, don't sit around and think about it, like I have to be worrying about it for like half an hour, I have to set everything up and like take that time, and then I don't have to, like I don't
to like not have to.
It makes me, because if I think about stuff like that, then I'm like, oh, now it's not just 5 minutes, it's going to take me like 20 minutes to do this, and do I have 20 minutes right now? It's kind of just trying to eliminate that step in my brain where I'm not thinking about it, I'm just getting to it and getting it out there, and then I'm just very quick to post it. So like, I haven't been able to watch it. I haven't watched any of it back today. Rebecca told me that I said it was 2026 when I did the date.
Really?
But I mean, it is what it is. It just happens.
Future mindset, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also, it's nice too, because like I said, I like doing these, and we get to do it weekly pretty much, but the doing it daily and like just being able to talk about what's really going on, I mean, moment to moment, it'll be a lot nicer by the time this episode gets out too. Like, we'll have told everybody that we're having a baby, like, so I don't have, I'll see very soon, like, I'll be able to talk about that in the morning, and how's that gonna open me up even
Just to
more.
be clear, we're not having a baby.
Yes. we're not having a baby. Me and Desiree are having a baby now.
Yeah.
But,
I'm very excited. In a way, we are having a baby, but not in the way that you think.
Yeah, so it's just like, that'll be another thing that I get to talk about, and I think that's very exciting for me, to tap into watching me become a father.
Yeah.
For myself. Just to like be able to...
Yeah, your child will have all these videos of us.
This is how hard Dad was trying to be a good parent, you know? Like, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, people talk about having like, setting up like an email address for your kid, and just like sending them, you can like send them notes of like what they did or pictures and stuff, and in a way kind of, especially in this time period, it'll be like that.
Yeah, that's,
like,
that's super interesting. I never heard of that.
Yeah, like you can send like, and then when they're like, I don't know, 16 or 18, or they go off to college or whatever it is, you can say like, hey, here's all this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool, man.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the version, like I know my mom did stuff where like she wrote stuff to me as I was growing up.
Yeah. And
then like I found the stuff as the years went on. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting, man. What was that like?
It's interesting. I haven't even read through all the stuff because I try to like save it, you know, like for when to like go back on. But it's interesting to like hear. And I guess in a way you're kind of visualizing what what it was like to be your parent, and it's a lot of it comes from like I don't know how positive or negative all of it is, you know, like there might be one in there where you're just like, hey, like I just wanted to let you know that like you were a real dickhead today.
Yeah,
you know? And maybe there is. I don't know.
You were 9 years old and you fucking kicked me in the shin. You piece of shit.
There's a composition notebook in my safety deposit box, but I think it's from around like that age, like 7, 8, 9, or maybe it might even be younger. I don't even know, because I haven't looked at it in a while. But it's cool to see like what those like the digital or technology offers to be able to do that. You know, back then, like you could, there were camcorders and stuff, but it's a lot easier to just pull your phone out and do something like that.
Yeah, so I think
I'm looking forward to the one where the baby is born. I think that's going to be a very interesting one.
Yeah.
That
5 minute video.
You'll be in labor like.
This is Desiree having a baby. I'm literally becoming a father right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
As you should be, man. It's very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a lot of changes going on for us. Like I'm going through. I've always really wanted to just be a dad and like get to experience that, and then just I love like coming back to family stuff has been so big for me since I got sober. Just like embracing it, because like I think I always really wanted a close family, but I didn't know how to handle that, and it was because of all the stuff that I went through and was going on with me. And now that I have like a better grip on that, like it's very exciting. Like just to like my mom's been going to church with us too, like me, my mom, and Rebecca. So like
I told my mom you've been going to church. She was happy to hear that.
So
I also told her that you're having a baby.
Oh, did you?
I did because I figured that she's very excited. She's like, I'm really excited.
That's cool.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously she didn't see it coming. But I just figured, I was like, maybe you won't get the chance to. And I was like, at least I get to tell somebody now.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's not gonna ruin the secret. Like,
not at all. No, that's cool. I'm happy you told her.
Huh?
I'm happy you told her.
Yeah, no, she was. I told her right after I said that you and Desiree have been going to church. No, I'm really excited, man. Like, and as you know, like I've seen some of my other close friends become dads. Joey, Will, Sweeney, and it's just a really cool process. Jake, you know, to see people become that person, because it's just kind of like you'll never be, even though like you were always changing, like you'll never be the person that you were before. Like no Christmas, like this Christmas is like your next 18 Christmases are going to be different than the last 31.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, I don't know, I guess like, and I know that, you know, we're always working on this anyway, but I want you to take stock of where you're at, how far you've come, how far you've come. It's like I think for myself, I've always looked at, like having a family as a way to do it right. And like, that's no shade at my parents or on anybody's parents.
I feel the same way.
But I think that everybody has that kind of feeling in it, because it's like you want to create new traditions. You know, things like the holidays and stuff like that sometimes get tainted, and you have different views of them based on the fact that, you know, whatever happened to you, or maybe it's just your own thing. But I think it all changes when there's a new human involved and you get the opportunity to like create something new for them, and kind of just it's in a way, it's just like, you know, I see this when I hang out with my friends' kids, where it's like there's kind of only a few ways to really tap into that childhood energy that you have, that's always still inside of you, and one of them is to be around young kids who are just so innocent and so curious, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, we went yesterday. Yesterday was 13-week appointment. She's into the second trimester already. Only 6 more months.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 3 months have already gone by. I think, like, I'm so grateful, and it's been big because I think for a while I was looking at it as like a chance, like you said, to do things better. Or like
your own way, or just but in a way it's not even like it's like reframing your own ideas around.
Yeah, I think I was looking at it that way, and then like since we've been going to church, I think it's changed the viewpoint a little bit, because it's not like nothing was, like you said, nothing was wrong with the way that you grew up. It's just the way that I grew up, you know. And like I don't have to try and use this to be better or do something different. Like I'm grateful for the way that I was raised, and the way that I came up, and now I'm gonna hold on to that and just use what I need to use when I raise my own kid, you know what I mean?
I'm also really excited for both of your parents, because they have grandchildren, but they don't get to see them as often as they'd like. So I'm really excited to like see them like be super involved.
Yeah.
You know?
My dad's been like,
I know,
so calm, dude. So calm. Like just the edge is completely off of him since he found out. Which is something that I didn't think was gonna happen. I mean, but like that was.
But in a way, it's gotta make you feel.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because he trusts that you got it, you know.
The other day, I came home from a run, and I had just like listened to that Michael Chernow episode on Rich Roll, and he was talking about his relationship with his dad who passed away, and like he didn't get to like say the things that he would have liked, because like he didn't get through recovery until later in his life, and his dad was already gone. And I got home from a run, and he came outside into the garage, and I just turned around and I was like, "Hey man," and he's like, "What?" And I was like, "I love you."
Yeah.
And then just like went back to like looking at my run recap on my phone, but just like that relationship, I feel like has already started to expand and become like back to what it was when I was younger, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For all the fucked up stuff.
Yeah, and well, no, you get so like separated from that, you know, and like you know, like just the other night, me and my dad went out to dinner and we were talking about like when he used to coach Little League and stuff like that. And sometimes I think, especially for myself personally, and like me and my dad have always been close, but at the same time, it's like sometimes you only remember like, you know, I was a real dickhead in like my teenage years, because that's like when you really start to form your memories and things like that. And you just kind of, like I said, I think it's very helpful to reframe and talk about things like that to remind you that like, yeah, like it's amazing what regardless of, you know, there's always going to be negative stuff. You're always doing the best stuff. Your kid's going to have negative stuff, you know, like that's just part of life. But at the same time, it's helpful to like really look back and be like, wow, I was like really lucky, you know, like my dad worked 80 hours a week and still made time, never missed a game, coached all those things, made time to work out with us and help us, and like the baseball was a big thing. And even just the other night, we were out to dinner and there was a football game on. And like my dad tries to act like he doesn't care about sports anymore. But then like I'm having like meaningful conversations with him there and he's fucking staring at the Chiefs-Bills game as it's on TV. And I'm like, see, you do, like, you know, like, but I also think that part of it is that he didn't really care about that stuff until me and my brother really cared about football or basketball or baseball or whatever it was. And I think that every once in a while he remembers that feeling, and it's really cool to like see that, because it's just like, oh yeah, I don't really pay attention, because I don't really pay attention to it either. But then all of a sudden me and him are sitting there not talking for 10 minutes staring at the TV. And that's I'm just like, you know, it's that state of being very grateful for what you have, and then knowing that there's always ways to improve on yourself, and then whatever comes from the future, whether it's your own kid. Like for now, like I can focus on the fact that like I can hopefully influence your kid in some type of positive way, you know.
Yeah, man. Hope so.
Yeah.
It's Kilmer said something one time on one of the Y&K podcasts. He was just like, we need our parents the most when we need them the least. You know what I mean? Like you're not leaning on them to show you the way, or while you're growing up, but like when you're pushing them away, like that's when you want to be with them the most. Is like when you don't need them anymore. Like that's a really great point. I never really thought of it that way. Yeah, that like it's like when you're like financially stable, or when you're like obviously like you guys would be fine raising a kid without the help of your parents or hers, but like that's exactly when you want them around, and when you want to give, you know what I mean? Because it's not just about like, how can you help me? Can you pay for dinner? Like it's not just that. It's just like I want you to be around and witness this and be a part of something bigger than yourself, because that's a thing that happens when like you've been independent for 14 years. Yeah. Probably a good time for us to start filming those parents episodes. We could do it in the 60s.
We'll shoot it in black and white, like it's Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, no, I just meant like when we get to like episode 60 and stuff. Like, use this. How old are your parents?
Both my parents were born in 59.
Okay.
So that would mean that I think that they're going to be 65 or 66
so
this year. I think I'm doing that math right. Yeah, I'm doing that math.
My dad was 59. My mom was 67.
Yeah, I think both my parents are 65. I think that would add up from 50.
Yeah, so we'll do them all in the 60s.
Yeah.
Our 60s episodes will just be episodes with old people. You have to be in your 60s to be a guest in the 60s.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's cool. Like even just the other day, my dad was talking about like how him and his girlfriend are gonna move in together, and I was like, like when was the last time you had?
Is she gonna move into the house?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And the house will get some loving again.
Yeah, exactly. But, feel like a home, And I even said to my dad, kind of like joking around, because he's like, oh yeah, my house is kind of like a bachelor pad right now, and I was like, I live in a bachelor pad, and your house is more of a bachelor pad. Like, there's two single guys who live in my apartment, and our apartment's decorated pretty nice. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm really excited for him because I think that he hasn't had that like feeling in the house, you know.
Like I said before, things are really kind of starting to change mm-hmm. like a little bit faster for us. How is I know you've had like a couple weeks since we've recorded where you were just like in the fucking trenches with editing and taking on a new job and then trying to navigate how do I do my routine and go about my life in this mindful way that I've been doing while also making sure that I'm taking care of what I need to take care of for work and editing, and then also balancing this with work and trying to find that medium. What's that been like for you?
I guess, I mean, it's been an up and down couple of weeks, but I think that I think it's taught me that I've gotten a lot better at noticing when I'm in that state of mind, and knowing that like maybe it's okay to be sad or overwhelmed today, but you know that there's things that you can do tomorrow to get better at it, and I think that, and I talked about this in the beginning of like when I got this job and now taking on more things, and just like gripping really tightly to, like, I've always, like, going back, and anybody who's listened to this podcast knows the story of how I went to Alaska and felt like I lost everything by losing that job because I felt like I had came so far. And I think that noticing when I'm inside of it, that like, this doesn't have to be like the only opportunity that I have. And that most likely there'll be a lot more after it. And I think that for the beginning of like working on this job and having like different clients and trying to grow my own thing, I've just like really noticed that I sometimes think like very scarcely, and sometimes like I take it as far to an extreme of thinking that like, if I don't keep up with this podcast, you're gonna find somebody else to do it with, which is just like an insane fucking thing to think about.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's like it's.
I feel I understand where you're coming from.
Even thinking, yeah, and but I think that it comes from that, you know, like I've thought about it in relationships, and it definitely, like, I think it seeps into my work more than anything else. It's just thinking that like there's always somebody like waiting to take that opportunity away from you. And when you involve that and it becomes this thing that like isn't just about work, and it's like your personal beliefs about yourself are bleeding into like, and I wouldn't even call necessarily what I'm doing now as like creative work, because it's not what like my future plan is to always be doing like real estate or videos for businesses. But it is nice to be able to get better.
It's part of your talent tree.
Exactly. It's getting better at my field, and like, yeah, and exactly, it's like that that Venn diagram of like, what are you good at, what can you make money at, how can you help people. And I think that for me it's just about not thinking scarcely about those opportunities, and thinking that like if I miss one episode, or if I deliver an edit a day later than I said I would, that's not the end of the world, and that's just kind of part of the way it is. And I had a really good conversation with my therapist over the weekend, which that always helps. I'm always going to recommend that. That's been a huge part of where I'm at today and why I feel like I can improve. Is remembering that you're not perfect. Number one is that like even the greats of directing or writing or editing or whatever sometimes they drop the ball. And also sometimes, no matter what, your personal and mental health is like, even though it might be hard to explain to somebody else, and I'm not saying that this is what I've experienced, but I'm saying that like it can be hard to explain to someone that you have a business relationship with that you're having a hard time mentally. What are you talking about?
What we're talking about?
Life is best lived by focusing on your goals and dancing through all other distractions. Nice. Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, and I kind of like immediately noticed that, and I'm not saying that everything that that Jordan Peterson says is what I would live my life by, but he does have a lot of good points, especially if you're down in the dumps. And one of his big things is honesty, which I've always, you know me, I've always been big on that. And immediately when I was going through that, you know, there was probably like a 5-day period where I was dealing with personal stuff, getting behind on work, trying to meld it all together. And my first instinct was to be like, oh, well, I had a hard drive collapse, or I had, you know, my computer hasn't been working great, or I had this random thing come up that I can't. And I went back and forth about what I should say. And what I ended up sending was just that, like, I'm sorry for the delay. I've been going through it. Like, and that's all I said. And to be like, and that's okay. And like I said, it's not that I got a negative reaction or anything like that, but if I did, or if you imagine in your head that like that went badly, or that like somebody was like, I don't really give a shit about your mental health. And like I said, and this is all hypothetical stuff that I was making up in my head. This is not what happened. But if that were to happen, like, would you really want to like work with somebody who felt that way? You know, like I wouldn't want to do this podcast with you if I told you like, hey, I'm having a rough day, man. Like the edit's gonna be a couple days late, and you were like, yeah, I don't really give a fuck. Like, let's get it done. Mm-hmm. This relationship probably wouldn't work that well, right? Yeah. So maintaining that, like, and tuning back into that honesty with yourself is that, like, it's never helped anybody get any further in life by like lying about stuff like that. Because then, if let's say hypothetically the next week your hard drive does collapse, are they gonna believe that your hard drive collapsed twice in 2 weeks?
You'd be like, you're a shitty editor.
What the what do you want? Editing on a typewriter? You know? Going back to I think that what's helped me the most is just taking my perspective out of it for a second and looking at the situation objectively and being like, yeah, I would totally understand this if it was somebody I worked with or somebody who I was close with, whatever the situation was, if they were going through the other end of that. So why can't I authentically portray what's going on to me versus trying to skate around? Because what you're really doing when you're lying about stuff like that is just making excuses for yourself that aren't even real. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to acknowledge the fact that you're going through it. And like, you know, sometimes I think I struggle a lot when I get frustrated with my work, and then it carries over into my personal life, or vice versa, where it's like you overreact about something, or maybe you take something too personally, or you kind of like go down a rabbit hole about all these hypothetical scenarios, which I am. I should have a fucking PhD in that by now. And just being able to like, just because you're having a rough time maybe mentally doesn't mean that you can't finish that video. But also sometimes it means that like maybe you do need a fucking break. And I think I'm figuring that out, but I definitely feel the pressure of, is this going to go away if I don't dedicate my whole life to it and forget about my mental health? When in the reality, the mental health thing is what's gotten me here. I was talking for a while there, huh? Yeah.
Could have done a 5-minute clip right there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that'll be, yeah, exactly. It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's something that I'm always trying to like evolve on. But I think that looking at it from the perspective of, I know that years ago, I would have had a bad month, not a bad 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. Being able to.
And for the record, I recommend this to anybody. Even if you feel like it has nothing to do with it, taking a 24-hour break from your phone will completely flip how you feel about things. Maybe some of you don't even spend that much time on your phone, but I promise that like just taking a break to yourself, I promise your friends will understand. He told me on the day that I took a break the sex of his baby, and I still didn't answer back till the next day, and we're still friends.
Yeah.
It's fine. It'll be okay. Sometimes you need that, especially if you struggle with the idea of comparing yourself to others. Because like I talked to my therapist about this, and like all of a sudden the self-improvement content that you follow starts to have this negative feel to it, because it's like you're not doing shit. And then I follow a lot of stuff that's like about movies, or like about making your videos or your photos better, or camera equipment, blah blah blah, like and all of a sudden that stuff gets very like, well, why doesn't my stuff look like that? And I'm not saying that everybody looks at it that way, but I will say that for me, noticing that and just being like, just take a break from it. You can go on your computer, you can do whatever, but like just sometimes you need a reset. The world is not going to end.
Yeah.
And I understand like sometimes people have to be like available for emergencies and things like that. But even just like limiting it, I think is a big deal.
Yeah, you can just do no social media for a day. Like you could do.
Even just that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or kind of just like deciding to yourself that like maybe there's a friend that you talk to every day, and you know me and you talk most days, and just saying to them like, hey, I think I'm going to take a break from talking, and just like try to focus, listen to my inner thoughts or whatever it may be. However it works for you. For me, it was literally putting my phone on airplane mode in the closet.
Dang.
Yeah.
Got to that point, huh?
Yeah, but then you realize like you can enjoy the movie a little bit better. Maybe you're more productive at your editing. Like for me, it was actually taking a break from work and my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a way I just kind of needed to realize that the world is not going to end if you do that.
Yeah. Everybody's got to go through their own things, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're going through at the moment.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of it had much more to do with than just like being on your phone.
Mm. Yeah. You want to get into that?
Yeah, that's whatever you want to.
It's up to you. Yeah, I mean, like we said, just lots of changes.
I mean, how is it? I'm curious how it's been for you, because like I know that watching that from the outside.
What?
Like, if anybody was kind of like close to that, it was you. Of like
going through what you were going through.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like it just depends. You gotta, if you really.
Because it really does give you an interesting to hear like, you think it's the end of the world, but other people are on the other end of it. Like, you gotta relax, dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, I know how you are, so sometimes I know that you can get into your head, and like, but there's also, you have to know your crowd, know your audience, you know, like, I know what works with you. If I had just been like, yo, bro, suck it up, you would have been like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And then it turns into something it doesn't need to turn into, because like, I'm not trying to put you on the defensive about how you feel, like, that's your feelings, you know, I think the way you communicate with people has to be precise to like, you have to know your people. Like if you're gonna have communication with people and talk to people in that sense where like if they're going through something, you want to make them feel comfortable to say what they're going through and not feel judged. And you don't judge me when I tell you something that's on my mind, so why would I know you don't want that reciprocated. That's not the way that you act. So I think it's just about understanding that everybody has their own stuff, and you know, give them their space. You've gone through something, you know. Everybody goes through their own shit, so it's just now.
No, I appreciate that. Like, and like I said, knowing the fact that it's just like the world's not going to end if I don't answer you today, or if I just take a day to myself, or whatever it
is. Yeah. So, this is probably toward the end of the episode, which, under the guidance that we've been given, this is when we should be discussing this next change that we're going to be partaking in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not that it's much of a change, but it's going to be a push to get the people that really care about this podcast and actually enjoy what me and you have to say and find the information useful, and then want to be a part of a community where people are inspiring or encouraging other people to be themselves and be their best selves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we've talked a few times before about grouped on here, but me and you were just discussing before we recorded this, the 5-minute episodes that I've done. Tomorrow will be the 10th one, and it'll be the last full episode that I do on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, because we'd like to start building a community on Grouped that's more centered around what we want to talk about and the conversations that we have. So that's going to be a way to draw people over there. But we had some podcast things that we're going to go through too. I mean, you've been doing a lot of editing throughout this entire time, and now we'll be putting up the unedited clips, the things that you don't.
Yeah, really, realistically, like the first one that we did that was, well, I guess Joey's was uncut, but the first time that we did a different episode than what was posted on YouTube and Spotify was the first part for Raven, where like the uncut version of that was just kind of like you saw us setting up the cameras and like getting the episode going and kind of the transition into that versus it kind of like picking up at a convenient and visually pleasing point. And that's exciting for me to be able to kind of like make something that's, it's like, you know, that even though we haven't really been consistent about it yet, you know you're making something for the people who really care about it. And I don't think you also get to that point and realize that you have that until you put it out there and you try. It's like, all we want, we can just keep posting the same things on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes people don't know that they want something until they do. Yeah. Or until you give to them.
I think the cool thing too is like, Grouped is going to give us the ability to make an income potentially off of this podcast, but in us doing that, we'll also be able to provide more service to the people that enjoy the podcast and that listen. There'll be a free tier where everybody can sign up. You'll be able to get the 5-minute daily episode or daily segments. You'll be able to get the episodes uncut on Tuesday for free, and you'll be able to experience Grouped and like what it is. But if you want to join the paid tier, we'll have the episode out earlier for you on Monday when everybody else is getting the regular episode. You'll be getting the uncut version.
Or maybe earlier before that, depending on how efficient I become at editing.
Yeah, that'll play into it too. But we'll have the ability to do messaging on there, which I think is huge, because to grow a community and an audience, we want to be able to interact with people, and sometimes commenting on an Instagram video might seem intimidating, or saying like what's on your mind, trying to message somebody can be a little bit difficult, and you don't want to come off as like
or even sometimes you don't want everybody who's watching the video to see your comment, which like we appreciate everybody who comments, and we definitely encourage that. That helps us immensely. But sometimes like maybe there is something that we talked about in this episode that you don't necessarily want to share with the entire audience on YouTube or Instagram, that maybe you just want to let us know. And for us, that's the people who probably have made it to this portion of the episode.
Yeah, the people
or in past episodes who, you know, make it till the end. That's why we always say stuff like, if you made it this far, we really appreciate you. Because we know those earlier episodes were there's a lot of
riffraff.
That's like a shenanigans.
Who's also on a platform.
But it's a really cool, and also like if if you're somebody who makes content, music, art, really anything, it's a free platform to join. For instance, if you have some of the other platforms, like it costs money to be on there, and this is just something where they take, I believe that they just take a percentage of whatever it is that you make, which in my opinion is totally fair, because they couldn't provide the upload speeds that, by the way, are fucking way faster than YouTube or Spotify or really any of that stuff. So shout out to them, and if you're interested, like I said, that's something that you could, if you join our group, you could ask us, like, you know.
Yeah, there's plenty of other artists on the platform. Mike has Only Steve's, Forrest Frank has a community.
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of them, but you know, like, just another thing that's exciting too is like with that paid tier, like we'll be able to bring the audience to the podcast with asking questions and topics that you'd like us to discuss, or throw into segments that we'll be able to do, which is interesting. And I think that'll make things just like really dynamic, just having the people that care about this podcast actually being directly involved without being
sometimes, like, and even up till now, like even all of this is kind of just like a guess, right? Like sometimes we're just kind of like throwing darts at the wall, hoping that something sticks in terms of like what people like and what people don't like. And this is a direct way that if you enjoy this, like I said, I mean, it's not something that you have to pay for to be involved. But going down the road, like we've always talked about doing things like a live podcast, and I think that the numbers on the numbers on the webpage or whatever it is, I think can only kind of mean so much versus like really connecting with the people who care about this. And we know, I think we're well aware of that. Right now, that audience is very small, and that's totally fine. And
that's why we'll have the free option just for everybody to get on there, and then if you really care, it's when you can help us help you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that'll be something. So like, for instance, like I know for a fact that like the next 2 episodes that we have are one camera angle, and there will not be any cuts in there. You know, like there's really not, like, as far I'm thinking back, I don't think there's anything in there that like we wanted to keep from posting.
No, I think the one at Desiree's house, but the one
like you'll see me freaking out when I forget to press record in the next episode.
Yeah,
you will see that.
Yeah. So
versus that probably won't be in the Spotify and YouTube one.
And also just, I mean, it won't matter until the episode's already out, but you'll get to watch me tell JP live on a podcast that I'm having a baby.
Yeah,
that's his reaction in real time, because
he
didn't even know what was going on. I just surprised him with the podcast.
I really didn't want to record that day, and we insisted upon it. It's probably our most meaningful episode yet. You know, and I was like, why is he so? We're 5 episodes ahead. Why are we so concerned with? Why we got it? Like it's 5 o'clock. We never record this late.
No, we had to,
and we had to, and no, I haven't. I don't know about you, but I haven't watched any of that back.
Well, I haven't either, because it's
on my camera.
Unless
you broke in and stole my memory cards.
Yeah.
But that's a like that episode. Like you'll still get to see that if you're not, but seeing the uncut version of that, that's just like maybe you have questions about what it's like to start your own podcast. Maybe you have questions about what equipment we use. Maybe you want to know like what that side of the room looks like while we do this.
Maybe you want to know how we got off drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, that is. Some things are more important than others.
That seems to be what Purdy was very interested in.
Exactly. Well, and like I said, and that's a good example of something that's like, some people are very open, and we appreciate that. If you're writing a comment on our thing like, hey, I got sober 3 years ago, but some people don't necessarily feel, and some people are, there's a lot of
sober curious people that don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, but there's also, and not even just that, but there's, in the whole realm of what we talk about, there are a lot of like things associated around like shame, and that we're posting these things on platforms that do not necessarily encourage the idea of showing your vulnerable self.
Mm-hmm.
And the group is a great way that like nobody else is going to see this, and we're not going to share it with anybody else unless you want us to.
Yeah.
And you can. And there's also always the option to like ask to be shared anonymously or whatever. But I think what keeps us really going in doing this is the thought that there's people out there who are positively impacted by that, and we can keep giving more of that if I guess we can get more a little bit up close to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
look out. Yeah. And that's something I gotta work. I gotta put all the links and stuff like that to grouped in like our.
Okay. Yeah, I just put it.
It's not in our.
It's the main link on Instagram now.
Yeah, but it's not in like our Spotify and YouTube notes and things like that.
Yeah.
But it will be.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to. And I mean, always. You can email us at whothoughtwe'dbehherepod@gmail.com.
Yeah. You want to be on an episode? You got a question? Let us know.
Yeah.
For now, you can reach us there. Soon, it'll just be on groups. You can talk to us right there.
Yeah, and I think that even though we haven't really discussed it, but like eventually there will be a time where those uncut episodes are not going to be free, and that it'll be something where because we discuss it, and it may seem like there's not much to do but press record, but we both do a ton behind the scenes, and trying to like reframe a narrative around like I guess like being profitable about like the value that we give to the people who listen to this or consume this in whatever way.
Yeah. All right.
Also, what was it? Tim Weber?
Tim Weber.
Shout out to Tim Weber from Group for having that meeting with us. That was, I think that really shifted
the way we think about
our point of view about how to look at content like that, but just how to look at the podcast in general.
And then Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Monetize yourself. Only invest in assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You want to define what an asset is?
Not your house.
It could be, like, yeah, but yeah. Right? I don't know.
Yeah, not according to the author.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, this is Who Thought We'd Be Here, episode 55.
55, yeah.
55.
Wow. Did you think we'd make it this far from the beginning? I think it was just hard to.
I feel like I think we'd make it a lot further.